Hey everyone, and welcome to our first panel, which is Where is Next GameFi. I have my dear friend and co-founder at Blockchain India and Blockchain Studios, Akshay Agarwal, to host this panel. He's also the partner with Draper Dragon Fund, which is King Draper's crypto arm, and is handling the investments for them in South Asia. Our first panelist is Ilman Tejiputra, who is the founder of AOS Network. Harish Karthik Gunalan, who's the founder of Coin Fantasy, and Paurav Joshi is the founder of Thrida Fans. Over to you, Akshay, to take it forward.
Thanks, thanks, Manav. I'm sure we have a lot of friends here. I'm already happy seeing Harish and Paurav, who I've got a chance to briefly connect before. I wish I could connect with them more often, but I think this platform gives me the opportunity. And Aman, this is the first time we're connecting, so pleasure. And I'm looking forward to the conversation, specifically learning about each of your journeys. But I guess you know. Since blockchain in India started, and this is back in 2016, late 2016, there's a lot that's happened, a lot of promises that we first thought will never get fulfilled, and 6 years in, we realized that a lot of those have already come true. And some of those companies that were making those promises are the biggest now. Uh, the market is in a lot of ways proven itself, but there's a lot more value realization to happen, right? I feel there is so many narratives that have gotten realized, but the space just keeps in a lot of ways just inspiring us, or keeps motivating us to look forward to what's going to come next. And one of those narratives has been gaming, right? Just because the sheer number of users or gamers, rather, be it web app, web games, be it mobile games. In India, if you look at the numbers, there are about 450 odd million mobile gamers already. This number is supposed to grow, almost to about 750, 800 million gamers in another 3 years. And I was reading this report that Mint quoted, and in other uh, venture fund Maple Capital Advisors, friends from across the world, mentioned specifically on how promising the Indian industry is. But if you see just, over a matter of a year, we've seen, investment in the gaming space come up from $700 billion to $1.6 billion, right? Though the majority of the market is on the mobile gaming side, a lot of it has not really translated to hyper casual games. There's so many trends that Web3 defies, Web3 gaming defies when it comes to Web2 gaming, right? So, I mean, the idea is to explore that. But before that, I would love to, plug in each of you with your stories. And Erwin, since I don't know you yet, I mean, I've followed your work, obviously, but not personally gotten an opportunity to learn about your journey. Why don't you, start off by sharing, a bit about your journey, and also make sure to plug in an affinity towards gaming in general, and where did that come from?
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Hi, everyone. Akshay, thank you for introduction. And my name is Arman Chiputra. I'm the founder and CEO of AOS. AOS is a deep tech company on its own, founded almost 10 years ago. And we're actually in AI and also in blockchain. So we're a team of over 30 to 40 developers, right? Meaning we also have designers, we have backend engineers, we have front end. So we're separated, I mean, into two different teams, right? And essentially, AI, what we do, we're doing in computer vision. Basically, we customize solutions for very specific use case, and it's not general AI because clients want a specific needs, and we serve the client's need according to the algorithms that we have to customize. And then, of course, with our team, with blockchain, uh, as it evolved, right? We try to understand what is blockchain. It's a new term back then. Like Bitcoin started, and we understand it to be a digital, I mean, a ledger, right? And how can we make use of this ledger for a purpose? And we're engineers by at heart. And then there was an ICO craze. There was boom, there is a bust, and then now there's another boom, and there's another. It's a cycle, right? We've been through all these cycles, and it's a natural wave, right? In terms of economic activities, and we all are going through it together, right? And we're not immune in that sense. However, we're still building, and as we dig deeper into what blockchain is all about, we started to question ourselves, what can we do with blockchain, and what are we have been building, right? We've been building a lot of computer vision algorithms, and we wanted to we play around a lot on video, right? We need to understand what video is in computer vision, and we understand the challenges of video. Video has many codecs, it's very fragmented, many devices, right? And we understand the costs. It's a very expensive endeavor to actually do streaming, to do live streaming. All this is very expensive for a startup like me in the beginning. I use a current CDN, or um, the way they cost. I mean, streaming itself is a bandwidth, right? It's a very expensive game. So we think of how we can lower the costs for startups in the future, like us. So we started to play around with blockchain, integrating blockchain with media, and that's where AOS network came about. We're actually a media blockchain. We're layer one, and we're built on top of Cosmos framework SDK with a full EVM compatible. So meaning, we believe in Cosmos, the Internet of Blockchain as a framework. It's a very robust, it's a very great ecosystem, and having full EVM compatibility also allows us to tap into dApps, that wants to build into media, right? And we're able to sort of power anyone who wants to have streaming capabilities, and yet have access to a Cosmos ecosystem and also an Ethereum ecosystem. Yeah, essentially, a user can actually download a node, we build it. You can get rewarded for sort of providing the computational resources like storage, streaming, and in the future, live streaming. So almost 5 years ago, when we first started, we did everything. We did streaming in terms of playback. We did streaming in live. So unfortunately, live streaming is a very expensive game, right? And it's a very computational intensive task. I've done one device to one viewing for streaming, right? But we also are aware that if you have one too many, it requires, and especially if it's a peer-to-peer, it requires many devices uh, concurrently alive, right? So we're focusing towards the direction as well, right? Using GPUs. So as of now, we're focusing on playbacks. We are going towards in terms of S3 storage as well, so we can store uh, games, right? I mean, in the future, you can do NFT pinning services. So essentially, we're still evolving, right? We're also adapting to the market needs itself, and that's where we are now. Yeah. Thanks.
Hey, wonderful. And I think there are a lot of believers of Cosmos in India, and I'm one of the early ones to interface with the Cosmos ecosystem. So really happy to see another believer, in you, and lovely to hear about the computation and storage initiative as well. Yeah, let me quickly use this opportunity to bring in Paurav. Paurav, you working on something super exciting, and fantasy sports broadly is something that a lot of us are participating in India. Dream 11 is such a huge craze. Cricket, I mean, everything, right? All sports
Yeah.
across the globe are super interesting. Tell us more about your journey. But okay, first start with what's your favorite game, and then your journey.
So there are two games that I follow. One is like everyone in the Indian street does, that is cricket. And the second,
Uh-huh.
my schoolmates taught me, that is football. So those are the two favorite games of mine. There are some indoor
Uh-huh.
games, but yeah, that's fine. So these are two outdoor games that I like. And yeah, so as you say, like Dream 11, every time I get in the WhatsApp the message from my friends, hey, IPL has started, let's compete between RCB versus MI or CSK versus MI and all those things. So it's crazy. And that's where, but if you go to the fantasy sports, actually fantasy sports or fantasy football, let's say, fantasy football has been played before 1991 also. It was played in the form of the paper, in the newspaper, like we see Sudoku in the newspaper, that actually fantasy sports people will play. That's how it was played before the internet era.
I
And
did not know about that.
yeah, so it was there in fantasy football. So I dig up on the what I am going to do. So yeah, I learned some history. So it's too old, and yeah, when internet started, it helped a lot of people to make their team on online and all. So fantasy football actually increased the English Premier League's viewing by, I think, 2.8x or 3x, something like that. So it increased the viewers because it actually gives you once again a love of your sports. And that's where we started, like cricket was the first one, but for a business to make, to compete with Dream 11 with 100 users or 1000 users, for us, I don't think that makes sense as a business. So football is where IPL runs for 2.5 months now going forward, but football runs for 10 months. So that's where we started on football, and any other thing I didn't know. So it doesn't make sense of basketball. So yeah, so that's where we started. And so fantasy football, we started with a vision of, okay, let's have everything on chain. But what helped us in our journey is user interviews. I have done 100 plus user interviews till now. And every time I ask which game you play, why do you play, what did you like, and if you are, there is no in, what are the incentives in why you play. If you go deep, you understand the reason behind, motivation behind playing. And it's not money every time, it's friends, it's groups. My friends are playing Dream 11. They send me invite. That's why I play Dream 11. So that's how generally it plays with fantasy sports. And that's where we started. We see that from 1991 till now, there is no disruption in the fantasy sports as a format. And we also, so we want to continue our Web2 practice of creating a team and all, but we want to incentivize the right user who created the right team. They should have an incentive over others. So that's where we are changing. First time in the fantasy sports history, we are changing the we are doing innovation within fantasy sports model, where the players value will change based on how value play. So it is going to be the first NFT based fantasy football where you can win multiple ways based on your skill. We are not limited, minting limited number of items. We are not that. That works in art, good, but in fantasy sports, everyone wants to hold Virat Kohli in their team. No one wants to go out without him, or
I,
Mahendra
I,
Singh
I
Dhoni.
I would want to Virat Kohli in my team.
Yeah, everyone wants that. Yeah. So yeah, so that's where we are doing differently. We are doing skill based scarcity of NFTs, where your player card becoming rare on how well you play. And good news, we are on good day today. So please keep and check out on Krida.fans on the announcement on Twitter, because we are launching beta today, which is going to
Hey,
be
this is
group based.
amazing. Congrats, Paurav. I think
Yeah,
I hope this flies off. You've been getting a lot of attention. I'm sure this is going to be exciting.
yeah, sure. So keep your group mates ready, because you can't participate alone here. You have to have a group.
Oh, so there's a social lock-in. Okay, so we're gonna come in groups, but before we do that and check out Creator fans, let's bring in Harish. Harish, you've been an avid supporter of games. You've been believing in the Web3 space for a while. Tell us a bit about your journey, but do make sure that you plug in where did the affinity to gaming come from?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for having us first. Thanks for the opportunity, Akshay and Manav. So, my background is kind of, like I started off my undergrad in India, like in Init, right? And I kind of worked for a few years, like then moved to US. I did my master's in University of Illinois, right? And that's when, like, like I was doing specialization. I do data analytics, and like that's when, like, this Bitcoin thing was happening. I was like, what's this Bitcoin? And I took up a course in blockchain, kind of learned how to code, like, and that's when, like, got into crypto. And like, it's and from then, like, there's no back, right? I've been into crypto full time. And so that's my journey with blockchain started. And last year, no, me and my brother, like, we're kind of always discussing about the problems, and like, and discussing what could be done, etc. And when this Robinhood Saha happened in 2021, where users were just putting in their money, like, without understanding, like, what's investing, what's there, and like, they were just getting their stimulus and just putting there, because they were in the hope of like getting high returns. And like most people got in, and at the top, and like lot of money. And then like probably then other things happened, GameStop, and it kept on going, right? Money flows in cycle where they move from this. But at the end of the day, if you kind of go there, like, a lot of people lost as well. And that's when we thought, like, there's a problem where like people don't have avenues where they could experiment initially without buying the asset directly, right? If you want to kind of like buy the Bitcoin, like without understanding the implication, like most people, I would say, like, without understanding underlying technology, get into kind of like the investing. So that's when, like, we thought, like, probably we should come up with a platform where we could gamify investment or gamify the financial markets. So that was our starting point of Coin Fantasy. And our vision is to kind of give like an ambitious mission of bringing the next billion users to crypto, right? And Coin Fantasy wants to serve as a gateway to investments, where users kind of come, play among like like how Power put it, like users or like people like to compete with others, right? Even in investment, you want to show off like you are the best trader. You want to show that you know about the markets. That's it's kind of where like we want to also see, like, hey, like, come compete against a group, or compete among the the company, or compete among like one on one, and prove yourself, show that, like, I think even in derivatives I've seen people kind of putting, like, whenever they made like 100x return or 100% return, they want to show off that FTX thing or Binance thing and put it on Twitter, right? That's how like people want to show the knowledge. So like our vision is to kind of gamify the financial markets, and kind of like act like a layer two on like on the financial markets. I would say like the layer one is kind of the primary asset itself, and I see like layer two and the financial markets, how we see ourselves. And the gaming affinity, I'd say, like, I've been I'd say like I'm not a, like a full gamer, but I've been at least like doing some games, like my games are like more into PS, right? I play for football, WWE, like that was kind of a thing that like when I was doing undergrad, I think that was a big thing. PS was kind of a thing in those days, right?
Same here.
But
Same here.
yep. Yep. So that's where the affinity comes. And apart from that, like I think Dream 11 was something like NPL was something I was always doing, because like even in US, like when we are there, like people, we want to like whenever this an IPL starts, like we all put in a group, and like what's your team, what's your rank, it's a point. I think that was another, I'd say, like affinity towards games. That's what brought us here. Yep. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, Harish, you mentioned a lot of people lost money and a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
made money. Which side were you on when you first entered? Did you, in the first 6 months, did you lose a lot of money or did you gain a lot of money?
I'd say like fortunately I made some money, but the problem was like like there is yeah, I was more like a long term. I didn't sell at the top. I'm just holding a lot of assets. But looking back, probably I'm thinking maybe I should have sold some. Right? I think that's kind of emotional connection you have with assets. Like once you start owning them, that's where NFTs or like even crypto tokens have that kind of. I don't want to sell your Bitcoin, right? You want to go to 100,000 right away, but it's going to take time. And yeah, I think that's, I'd say, like yeah, I've kind of made some, lost some. Yeah, I think I've done both. Yeah.
Okay. Quick question to the whole bench. How many of us have
Mhm.
played Counter Strike?
Oh yeah.
Oman, we gotta compete with you
My
because I
friends
I
group
really.
is my friends group is India Reliance competition winner.
Oh wow, this is
Nice,
amazing.
nice.
So we're not playing against Gaurav, but Aman, you and I are playing that first person shooting game because I really suck at it. I'm probably going to give you a lot of confidence when we get to it. But there's the click that I felt with Web3 gaming, right?
Mhm.
And that click was basically back in the day when I used to play Counter Strike for endless number of hours. I did have these weapons. I did have these in-game assets, but I had nowhere to monetize it. Right, I could barely give it to my friends. They were basically using my credentials to access the swag that I already had by putting in a lot of those hours, getting a lot of wins. Right, so essentially there was that plugin missing that made these assets portable across ecosystems, that made these assets, I mean, forget outside, just even within the Steam ecosystem, there was no relation to how Counter-Strike assets could be used, right? And so when that click happened, when I first heard about that, these assets could go across ecosystems, and probably today I'm playing FIFA on PS, and tomorrow the result of that sort of enables me to get to a better position to start off in Counter Strike. I think that was something that I related to. But yeah, a lot of people did relate to the idea that we could sell it, make money as well. So I think for me that was something that Web3 brought to gaming. Or if you look at vice versa, I saw a huge amount of users, and I being one of them, at least more so when I was younger, right? So what do you feel is your click? Why? How does Web3 and gaming relate in general? And I asked to you specifically because you have a very strong infrastructure proposition, and so how are you looking at gaming space? What's that click that you're seeing that brought you to this space? Could I
Yeah.
say that again?
Yeah. I think in terms of the infrastructure play, so I think yes, AOS Network itself would be a infrastructure for gaming dApps like all the speakers here, and typically a game when they're being deployed, they will have to develop, they have to store the game in the server, and then the front end interface, be it in the app, in the iOS, Android. Computer device, they definitely need to pull the content, right? So the way we see it, I think this so-called Web3 storage can be distributed. So imagine the players of the dApps can not only interact with the games, but also in the future, they can also participate in powering these games that they're playing, right? So the ecosystem is a closed, it's so-called like a loop, multi-dimensional loop, where if you have the devices, you can power it, you can also play, right? And sort of we see that to be the future of Web3. Like even for me in the Web3, right, gaming, right, will be interesting in the sense that, as you said, um, having these Counter-Strike items that can be monetized, I think it's a very interesting, unheard of even before our time. I mean, during, I mean, pre Web3, it's just gaming studios selling the items, right? And then, indeed, I think there is one game uh, that actually sell the items, and then these items are being so-called bought and resold in a third-party so-called black market, right? But imagine this black market can be, um, I would say, on blockchain, right? Through either NFT or an item that is on blockchain, obviously with the evolution of smart contracts, right? From, for example, there's a ERC, all the different type of token standards. I believe that kind of standards also will evolve. You know, there's a 1155, there's 721. Who knows? In the future, as smart contracts evolve, according to the market demands, and that's where I think for us in infrastructure and the blockchain side can cater. Like, nowadays the NFT evolved to include royalties, right? And I think for us in the AOS network, the ability to support these games is a very interesting proposition, and it's something that's never been done before. It can be done, and it's evolving towards that. Yeah.
Akshay, are you there? You're on mute.
Hey, I'm back. Yeah. So I was just, I mean, I could not get that, but I do understand the context of, distributed storage and, every user, utilizing the Web3 infra layers for gaming and not just gaming, pretty much everything consumer ended, right? So I do understand the click there. Paurav, would love to get a sense of, where do you see a click between Web3 and gaming in general?
Yeah.
Right.
So first of all, it is not like you just do Web 2 games in Web 3. That is not going to work. There is one interesting question that has come up in one of my discussions is like, what users are leaving on the table if they don't come to your Web 3 game? Okay, so if any project can answer that, then it is a good for gaming. Now, where I see connect, as you say, CS:GO, then there is Dota, and all those things where you attain something by skill, and you can port from Valve industry, you can port from one game to another game. That is like a big achievement. Like I can brag about boss, I have this, and I can show off my Dota achievement in CS:GO also with badge on my whatever the race I have won. That was possible within say Valve industry. But now if so from Valve I will go to our EA, I go to FIFA. And in FIFA, like, okay, I am playing my FIFA with multiplayer. How many players know that I know I play CS also? So because I have that logo, that badge will be on my FIFA t-shirt also. So then you can compartmentalize, okay, this guy plays FIFA also, he plays CS, so I can connect with him for CS also or for Dota.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. So
So,
that's where it says like it what happens in real world, right? You have your friends group of okay the people who are investors in Mumbai, just taking an
mhm.
example. Out of that there are going to be some people who are playing cricket on Wednesdays or Fridays. Out of that there are going to be some people who are watching match in sports bar. So you can connect. So those are that's how generally we have a different group for different kind of activities in real world, and we find out people by talking and by seeing them. So that's what now this is enabling kind of metaverse. Means metaverse is a very broad, means everyone means different for metaverse, so I'm not going to definition of that. But we are going towards the identity of your digital identity where you can see this player knows these also, and I don't have to brag my identity or my badge or my spatial skill on blockchain verified. You don't have to trust me. So that's where I see difference, or game needs Web3. And NFTs can be onboarded a lot more things on game feel, let's say different kind of advantage. Like you played CS, I played CS, but we never played for money, we played for fun.
Yeah,
So if it is not a fun, it is not a game, as simple as that.
exactly.
Then on top of fun, if it is making it more entertaining or more encouraging your whole group to come up, like okay, I will make sure Akshay will scale up his CS game so that we all can play better. If that
Exactly.
incentive can be provided via Web3, because that's where Web3 comes in picture, where you can provide incentives not in terms of money always, in terms of bragging rights like NFTs. So
For
that's
sure.
where
So
I
I think
see. Yeah.
so porting across ecosystems being one of the first ones, right?
Yeah.
Connecting, and again, I think this is also something that you highlighted, social connection with a lot of people in fantasy sports, but you're saying that happens across games, and maybe if you're playing on the Oculus I play Bowl VR because it's one of the free apps that you get on the Oculus. But I think
Yeah.
if we're playing across those ecosystems, I could be a friend there, and potentially you could also send me some money for free if you're enjoying that experience. But I'm just kidding. It's more about fun and then making money on the kind of credibility you
Yeah,
provide.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
for sure. So I think so for you, it's also about fun, right? But let me ask this to Harish: how fun do you think is blockchain gaming? Right? Is it? I mean, I do understand that there were 3 million people playing Axie Infinity, but how many of those were really having fun, right? That I'd love to understand from you. And by the way, I mean 3 million in a day at a point, right? So that was
Oh.
crazy. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting, right? I think Axie Infinity would be a perfect case study for people to study, like how kind of, it brought about a model, how succeeded, and there are a little bit flaws as well, right? But yeah, but to answer your question in terms of, how I see is like, especially, in Web3, owning the asset is very, very kind of a big deal, like you were saying, like Edmond was pointed out, like, there were times when, like, just emails in football fantasy used to sell for, thousands and thousands rupees, like, because now I'm kind of already in this level, right? If you want to already go past them and go there, like the people were buying that, and there was like huge market for it, that's kind of how this NFTs, now you can own the asset, that kind of belongs to you, and you kind of, either you can sell it, put a secondary market for it. Apart from that, you can, show off, like, like you can probably, put it in OpenSea, or like even like, you can put a website and show off, like, you want this asset, you can set it as a profile picture, you can, there's light of a kind of apart from the utility, it brings that social value, like I think that's what Bored Ape have brought about, like, there's like not just utility, like, where you can use it, but I can, if I own a Bored Ape, I'm kind of like thought about as holding a, like having a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, or like those kind of people
Diamond
like to
hands.
brag. Yep, yep. So and also it as a platform, also it puts interesting possibilities of, keeping users engaged. When I say that, like now I say, like, you want this NFT, you can combine and, create another NFT. Like, say for example, I already have 4 NFTs. If I buy it from the market, I can create a new NFT. It as a platform as well, like, and you can put in n number of, interesting and, engagements that users like to do, and kind of, it's not like very like, for example, if you take Mario, what will come in level 21, right? And, what's the passcode to use to go to level 21, and how to go into that, but I'm saying, like, now I could different define different levels for everyone. Hey, if you own this, like, probably this will be a flow. It will not be a linear flow, could be, present like a multiple flow for users based on how, what kind of NFT they hold. It's like, opens up interesting possibilities for games and platforms for users to engage. And definitely, I think the NFTs will be, I think, it is similar to how blockchain 10 years ago were, very interesting. I think NFTs would put it at an interesting perspective. And one last thing I would say, like, you probably guys, about Soulbound as well, right? How this on-chain identity kind of, could be used anywhere now. If you are, a pro gamer in Counter-Strike, you would not be, evaluated anywhere. Like, for example, because, like, there's no proof for it. No, you might say, like, you're a pro, but now with Soulbound and the on-chain activity, like, it's like getting equivalent to a diploma. Like, now you can show off, like, hey, I'm a pro gamer and this, I have the skill set, so it's like, I definitely think, like, people who pro gamers are really smart, yeah, like, definitely, when I hire someone, like, people say, like, hey, they're a gamer, I think I'm pretty sure, like, they'll come up with creative ideas in a team, right? So, but yeah, so I think these are some interesting possibilities that opens up with NFT and owning the certain NFT. Yeah.
Absolutely, no, those are phenomenal examples of what could add a lot of value to the existing ecosystems. Just imagine in the use case of Paurav's friends they get to boast off with a badge that we did win the championship on Counter Strike. So I kind of relate to that, and I though will fall flat with showing off any championships, but possibly that will push me to look up to certain people for sure, right? So tell me, obviously there's this gaming part of it, and then there's this finance part of it, and I think P2E sort of brought that to light. And there was a fun fact shared by Rohini on the chat that there are these two different aspects to it, and it was first coined in 2020 by Andre from Yearn Finance, right? So I think bringing that into question, what do you think of P2P? Where is P2E, play to earn, and where is that going? And you know, possibly I think Harish or Paurav, you could take that, and then would love for either of you to also share where do you think that this is going, because I don't think P2E was engaging enough. It definitely made sense from an earning perspective, but what's changing?
Yeah, probably I can go first. Yeah, so if you look at Web3 itself, I see this as like more like an incentive layer on the top of a game, right? Like now, or like it not just game, it could be anywhere. Like this gamify, it's a very interesting proportion now. Like and everything kind of happens through smart contracts and automated, right? For example, now like I play and automatically money is getting credited to my wallet. So that's how automated it is, and it's like definitely I feel like P2E as a model was really great, and gamify, like for example, now users kind of stake in a game, right? That is kind of depositing money in a bank. So it's like you are technically doing that and through a game. So that's kind of, puts like, an interesting proportion for even banks to now say like, not just go and stand in the lines, deposit the money in the bank. Like this is like even banks can take this approach and kind of gamify. Now you can go to a metaverse, deposit money in the bank, and like you can present interesting perspective, and people would be interested to open up accounts now, not be boring to stand the line. Now they can go to a metaverse and open up banks, and everything is so it's like a very unique value addition
Harish,
I see, like
you gotta tell that to the Kotak guys. They bored me to death.
oh, really? Okay. Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, like so the P2E as model and the gamify is really, robust enough. But I feel where I think the Steam kind of, yeah, I'd say like a little bit we kind of lost is where I think as a tokenomics of the model, like, I think most games like, just had, like inflation, right? In terms of tokenomics. It's like, what problem we have in US and other countries where we printing money and continuously, and there is no into it, so when people do that, like there is no real value to it, and there's a lot of tokens in circulation, and circulating supply increases, so as a model I think what one thing we have tried to solve is kind of how to bring about this deflationary elements in the tokenomics itself, and I think that's a very very interesting problem for most of the P2E games to solve, is kind of how just not inflation, more than that, how you're going to bring the deflationary elements, how you're going to bring utility, etc. So that's where I feel P2E games and gamify. I'm really kind of confident about gamify going mainstream. Like especially with games, and I think now games and banks are almost like going to tie up, and like for example, now Amazon has so much data, now they can open up a game that like say you that like only like users who have prime customers can get access to it, so it's like that, so I think gamify will be a very very interesting domain to watch out for in the coming days.
I guess it was a very short while because we need to wrap things up. But Erman and Paurav, I'll give you the opportunity to share your thoughts around, GameFi sort of being a anchor point to that metaverse, or GameFi, what's the future of it? I mean, your thoughts, and then obviously, you can speak your. I mean, if you want an ask, if you want people to jump onto something that you're launching, I mean that can also be included right after, and we'll wrap up with that.
Yeah. Can you come up with the question once again? I lost in between. So meta game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the idea is that, how do you see, P2E, I mean, with P2E dying, right? And I'm not sure
Okay.
if it's right to say
That
that.
that's fine.
If it is, yeah. How do you see, what's next in the GameFi space? Does this act
Okay.
as possibly an anchor point to the metaverse? Is there something next that you're seeing? Because you're at the cusp, right?
Yeah. So there are so many people at the cusp. So I'm not claiming that. There are so many people who are learning so many things or doing so many new things. Just quickly wrap up few things. Play to earn, it is a good way to start for Axie. It brought a lot of people because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. They do 7, 8 steps, and uh, I as like it now it is not at that stage it was. They are also coming up with skill based scarcity. So from play to earn, they are going coming back to play and earn. So they launched, I think, Axie Origin few months ago. I think when we are also trying skill based scarcity, so they also started that Axie Origin, which is play and earn. And so people started from play to earn, then play and earn, and now actually there are so many good Web 2 gaming companies are coming to Web 3 in India, outside India. Studios are coming there, and there is another model like free to play. They are coming up with free to own. They are coming up with free to own where you are free to own like loot box. It happened like everyone can just mint it, and then after that NFTs value created based on how people create it. So there are multiple paths as of today. There is no single path, but what is exciting or what is going like there are more than one model which are going to succeed in Web 2. There was free to play which give you so many things, and then people ask coins or something extra, then pay us. That was happening in Web 2. But in Web 3 mobile apps, and there are so many models coming up. Steppen has another model which was very successful. I would say as a game because it is gamified version. Then actually gaming coming up with the Digidai Kaku of Gabriel Leiden, who was like I followed him in 2020 when he was doing Web 2, one of the millions of Web 2 games. But yeah, that's that's there. And then there are some Indian folks who have tens of hundreds of millions Web 2 apps. They are coming up with their own version of GameFi. So how it is going, it is evolving. It is not doing the same mistakes of play to earn. So they are trying either play and earn works or free to own works, or there is something else. There is something new which works. Everyone is trying that. Like play, like freemium model also people are coming up with the same way like it is in our F2P model. People also coming up with that also. And NFT royalty has changed the game in Web 3 than Web 2 because you can be. So that is what our target is. If you have enough NFTs, enough transaction happening, honestly, you don't need entry fee in fantasy sports. If you have 10K or if you have 100 NFTs every day transacting between two people and 5% is you are getting, and it is enough volume, then it is enough for you. Means you don't need entry fees. So it is going to evolve. It is not going to stay stagnant, but this is one of the very good start. And people understood there should be tunnel at the end so that people come to your platform, but it has to make sure that it will come in the bear time. It will sustain your bear time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, no, I completely agree with that. Part of some lovely points there. Definitely, I think a rundown of what's happening. I hear you that you're paying a lot of attention to the market, and you guide us with that acumen. Aman, I would love your thoughts on the same, and more so focused on what do you think is the future of GameFi, and if it can act as an anchor point to the metaverse or even Web 3, right? I think Web 3, I was seeing transactions. The maximum amount of transactions are due to a game called Alien World, right? And when they moved to Wax blockchain, that Wax blockchain became the most used blockchain, right? And so that was something interesting.
Right. So yeah, I think GameFi. I think it has a. I mean, like how I think the name came about was gaming and finance, right? So it's very broad. It's so broad that you can do. You can create DAOs out of it. You can fund a game in the future, right? And everyone can participate, like a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo of a gaming studio, right? I think even I think one of the things that is possibly interesting is like the gaming engines, right? That possibly will launch these games into a world of metaverse, right? It's a starting point, right? And to us, even for me, even my team and I, when we're discussing about metaverse, right, we're like, what is this, right? I mean, it's a very new concept. It's a, I mean, we're developers, but we also try to understand VR is there, right? AR is already being born, and now we're coming into a metaverse world, right? Which is interesting, like I think it is also a starting point to enter into a world where, to us, metaverse is indeed another new world, right? It's like a omniverse, a multitude of universe existing code together, and they need to be streaming, because at the end of the day, every metaverse world that's out there have to be powered by a streaming. So if there's no bandwidth, that metaverse that we sort of see will just collapse. Like the movie, right? I forgot what movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It just collapsed, right? So I think if we have this gamification, will bring people into this, uh, I would say, incentive. It's basically an incentive model, right, with the right tokenomics, right token model that has to be a sort of a value of scarcity, because you cannot have one, like for the purpose of illustration, like in Counter-Strike, if we have one super plasma gun, but versus we have a million plasma gun, that one plasma gun is worth a lot, because the plasma gun can destroy a lot of things, right? So I think it also has to come from the gaming studio itself to think about how to create that scarcity, to create the token model, tokenomics, right? And blending it together, because I think we have yet seen, with all honesty, the current gaming studio jumping into blockchain yet. But when they start to understand what it can do for them, maybe with their shareholders, together with the community and the user adoption, I think we see this big leap into this so-called the justification of why blockchain is, it's, I wouldn't say it overtakes it. I think it complements it, right? It can be a hybrid model. Yeah.
Some wonderful points there, Roman. I think the idea of one storytelling to be, you know, to be engaging enough, but then I think a lot of it changes when you're looking at token economics playing with the whole thing. One, how do you make the game sustainable? Two, how do you make it engaging enough for the user to feel connected to the game, feel connected to probably making money, or sort of understanding, or get to the point that the realization that they are doing something good with their time, right? And a lot of that in an environment that lets them go across things that they find interesting, and not just to stick them to a small world that maybe makes them probably socially not logged in enough, right? As to the point of Porav, and how Coin Fantasy sort of arches on that. But we'll use that as a segue for our next session. Over to you, Manav. A huge shout out to AOS Network, Coin Fantasy, and Creator fans. I think lovely products, lovely directions, lovely protocol in in some sense. So I feel the best to all of them.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you, Irman. Thank you, Harish and Paurav, for joining in. Guys, stay tuned. We have another very interesting panel after this, and then we'll open it up for networking and getting to know each one of you. Thank you all, and see you back in a couple of minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.